Today's COVID update is brought to you by Fulltech Systems, your technology center, where you'll come for the price but stay for the service.
And we're back, and we're moving into our first conversation for this morning, where we are hoping to get the latest as to the rollout of the second phase of the unemployment program, as well as an update on the MSME Support Program. Joining us via Zoom this morning, we're joined by Honorable Dr. Carla Barnett, who is the Minister of Labor, Local Government and Rural Development, and Dr. Leroy Almendarez, who is the Executive Director for BELTRAIDE. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning, Marlene and Gavin. Good morning.
Thank you both for being able to join us this morning.
It's our pleasure.
So I'm hearing you, Dr. Almendarez.
I'm glad to be here.
Okay, great. Making sure that you're still there, Dr. Barnett. So this is
yes, I'm here. I'm having the camera with the video.
Okay. So we're about a week in since the start of the second phase of the unemployment program, as well as the rollout of the MSME support. And we know that there have been some questions and concerns. Let's start off with the unemployment program. Dr. Barnett, let's go through the ground rules as to who can apply in this phase.
Okay, the bottom line is that you can apply if you have lost your job because of COVID. That's the bottom line. If you have lost your job because of COVID, whether you're a worker working for a company for somebody else or are self-employed, you're eligible to apply. You're a government pensioner or a social security pensioner or a recipient of boost and programs such as boost from Ministry of Human Development, then you're not eligible to be approved. So you have to bear those requirements in mind. But the most important thing is for you to be aware of. You are eligible if you lost your work, your source of income, because of the economic impact of COVID.
And can those who applied in the first round reapply in the second?
Yes, if they are still unemployed, they can apply. If they have gotten work, then they ought not to apply. So if you're still unemployed, you are approved in phase one, that's not a barrier to you applying and being approved in phase two. Many people in the tourism industry in particular are still unemployed because of the impact of COVID. So having been approved in phase one is no hindrance. You just have to still be unemployed.
And for those who want to apply, can you also shed some light on the type of the relief that they will actually receive if they are approved?
It's the same relief that was approved in phase one. Persons who are have been laid off or self-employed and have lost their source of income. It's $150 every 2 weeks for a period of 6 weeks. Sorry, for 6 payments. That's 3 months.
Now, there have been some challenges that we saw in the first phase in being able to get the relief funds out to those who were approved, and also some information that people were asking about why they weren't approved or why they never got a response. Can you respond to those?
We had many people who applied in the first phase who did not provide adequate information, and we could not reach them. Sometimes their telephone numbers were wrong. It became difficult to reach many people. But we did approve 45,000, a little bit more than 45,000 people got assistance in the first phase. And there were a few challenges in terms of banking information. We went through a process of trying to rectify a lot of that kind of erroneous information that stood in the way of us completing payment. And I believe we are in the final phase of paying out everybody who was approved, which will be done by top-up cards. All the top-up cards are now completed and ought to be ready for distribution as of yesterday evening. That was my information yesterday evening. So as of today, all remaining persons ought to be able to collect the last amount of the top-up cards that were produced.
So, I mean, that's a pretty long time that they've been waiting. What's been put in place for the second
Well,
phase?
Marlene, let me tell you, in comparison with what large countries have gone through, it's not a long time. Yeah. In the US, for example, 2-3 months people have been waiting. Yeah. We started this program in the beginning of April, May, June, July. We're in August. This is the end of the first phase. We're going into the second phase. Mm-hmm. Yes, we had challenges, but the challenges to the total that we handle are really not that great. And the group of persons who were involved in doing this have really been going beyond what would normally be expected. So yes, it was delayed, but delay is relative.
But I mean, the sheer volume of processing the applications, I'd imagine, would be very time consuming. So I was saying that delay in the first gives you some insight as to some of the challenges that may prolong the process in the second phase. So what's being implemented this time around to just be able to cut down on some of that?
The largest challenge was input error by applicants. We had errors in social security number, in date of birth, in sometimes striking the wrong key when you're inputting your own name. And so what you will find when you're applying this time is the first screen will require you to actually have to put in everything accurately. Your identifiers will have to be absolutely accurate. You will have to type in whatever is on your social security card. And if you put it in wrong, you just will not be able to go to the actual application, of inputting the actual application. And so we tell everybody, make sure your card is beside you, put in your number correct, spell your name as it is on the card, and you should have no difficulty. And we should be seeing much less of that personal identification information going in erroneously this time. That was the single largest error. We also had a lot of people who inputted their banking information wrong. And there again, we've made some improvements. We've actually pre-formatted how the account information should be going in for every single financial institution, credit union. And so there's a lot more guidance in terms of inputting all of that information this time. So we should be seeing a lower degree of input error, and we should be able therefore to process much faster with a less degree of rejection of payments.
Mm-hmm. Now, looking at those who did not qualify from the first round, what can you tell us about that? What are some of the reasons that people were deemed ineligible for the unemployment relief? You have the categories of persons that would not have been eligible, such as pensioners. So setting that set aside, we had a huge volume of persons who really just sent us a name and a bank account number, no information on employment, no information on what they were trying to do or used to do to earn a living, and no way to get back to them, and we couldn't process those for obvious reasons. We couldn't process those. So those, we had maybe about 25,000 of that of that kind of application that was submitted, where we had no information to be able to verify who the people were or where they were or who they work for, if they worked at all, that kind of stuff. Yeah.
And are you expecting the same sort of volume of applicants this time around?
Well, we are expecting a large number of applicants. I was checking the portal just now, and we went over 50,000 night. We're still seeing quite a number of persons who are putting no employment information in there. So it will take time for us to verify and vet those persons. We're getting a lot of persons who are self-employed who are not telling us as well what they used to do, and it becomes a difficulty because it is an unemployment relief program. It's not the kind of program that the Ministry of Human Development does, in which their way of determining who is eligible is different. This really is about helping people who have lost their jobs, and we've expanded it to helping businesses to stay alive so that people don't lose their jobs. But it's an economic plus program.
And I asked that because, you know, apart from the technical or whatever issues that people may have had even inputting, on the ministry side, I'm wondering if it was just a challenge having to evaluate and vet just the sheer numbers of applicants. Dr. Barnett?
Yes, it's challenging. Are you hearing me? Yes,
Yes.
it is challenging, and it will be challenging as well in this phase. But you have to go through it because it's required and because people do need the help. And we have to make sure as much as possible that the help goes to people who actually need it, because it's not an infinite amount of money that's available. So we have to be careful in doing the best that we can in ensuring that it reaches where it is supposed to reach.
Now, this second phase also comes, and we can get Dr. Almendarez in, with an employee retention program. So this is a new element, I'm sure, that you want to be able to have people, employers and employees, understand. So how does it work? The $7 million that's been earmarked for employee retention, is the application made by the employer through the MSME Support Program, or is it made by the employee?
Hi, good morning, Marlene.
Good morning.
Good morning, Marlene and Gavin. I presume that question you said was
Yes.
to me, but
Yes.
maybe what we can do here for the benefit of the public is just to provide some information. And first of all, it's to reiterate what Dr. Barnett has said. It's an unemployment relief program. It just simply means that the micro, small, and medium enterprise aspect of it is now integrated.
Yeah.
And there's a reason for that. I mean, after a survey was conducted, and not only that, globally it shows that about 70% of employment is in fact from the micro, small, and medium sector.
Yeah.
So if this sector was not to be, if there was not a stimulus provided in this case, the challenge would be greater because then more people would be applying for the unemployment relief.
Yeah.
The MSME program, or the MSME aspect of it, has three components. There's a micro component where 2.5 million is allocated, and each approved applicant will receive 2,500 as a grant. It's for micros, it means that you are between 2 to 4 employees, including the employer. Self-employed people, as Dr. Barnett indicated, would have to apply under the unemployment relief program, so it means they cannot apply here. The 7 million is a wage subsidy. And the wage subsidy simply means that what we are requesting here is that it's really retention of employees. And so therefore, let us say due to COVID, there was a contraction in terms of the number of employees, but the employer decided to bring those because they might have been furloughed or what presently exists. It means that it would be required that you keep the social contribution payments up to date. So you can apply, but the disbursement of funds go hand in hand with what Dr. Barnett has been saying, because this is basically almost, really almost an expansion of that. And then you have a 5 million loan program. There's a loan aspect of it. And the loan aspect of it is 5 million, but this is really allocated to small and medium enterprises. And to be considered a small enterprise, you must have employees between 5 and 19, or 5 and 20. And for medium enterprises, it's between 21 and 51. So if you're a small enterprise, you can apply for a loan, and the loan is kept at 15,000. For the medium enterprise, it's 25,000. Now, for the first 12 months after the disbursement of funds, you don't have to make any repayment because this is actually a part of recovery. And so within those 12 months, it's to put whatever program you have in place. In fact, you notice that quite a number of these enterprises have actually pivoted away from their core competencies and diversified to meet the needs of, created by COVID. It will be, so that's a 12-month grace period. And then 24 months after that, in other words, repayment starts in the 13th month, and you have 24 months in which to fully repay. So you have 36 months in which you are given to repay this loan, and the rate is fixed at 3%. The money will be disbursed through the National Bank of Belize, but there is a process where after these applications, so application process or the period is from August 1st, it was launched, up to August 21st. On August 21st, the program, the application process will shut down. And on August the 22nd, the evaluation committee will start its evaluation process. And this process, because you want this, there's a 90-day window. You want this money to be disbursed as quickly as possible. So we're expecting to serve 1,000 micro enterprises out of the 2.5 million, since each will receive $2,500. And whatever challenges they might be facing, we have, as Dr. Barnett would also say, we have dedicated lines, we have dedicated emails. So for example, the email is belizemsp@covid19.bz. You email, and that's a dedicated, someone mans that email, and we make sure that we respond as quickly as possible. We also have a toll-free number, 0800 call MSP, or 0800-225-5677, or 613-7342.
And that helps people.
Right, and at this point in time, BELTRAIDE is providing, the support. So a person who might have been experiencing problems in filling out the application, we are providing, that back-end support where whatever challenges you're facing at this time, uploading, or if you have a problem with your application going through, we are providing that assistance. So all of that assistance is being provided at this point in time, because what we want is that all applications that are full, and remember, we are catering in terms of micros. We're catering to formal and informal.
I wanted to ask a bit about that, because let's try to break this down separately. So let's talk about the wage subsidy part first. What you're saying is, if you're a one-man shop, if I am alone when I go to cut yards or anything, I am self-employed, but I would not apply under the MSME program. I'd apply for unemployment relief.
Because there is a facility allocated for that purpose. As a matter of fact, and just for me to just reiterate this, Dr. Barnett, there's 14 million allocated. And 5 million is for self-employed individuals. So they would not qualify under the MSME program, no.
Now, if I have a small bakery of me and 2 employees, the question here is, can I apply for wage subsidy if I've already sent home one of my employees? Do I have to rehire them back? Should I have been keeping them on staff and making Social Security contributions? What's the line of definition there?
Right, important question, because remember, one of the things you can do is that you could have still been paying the the contribution. And so making sure that is kept up to date. So let us say that you had furlough. Let's use the word furlough rather than terminate, because you could have terminate, but you made a termination on the premise that if things were to change, that I would re-employ you. For example, in the United States, sometimes what they do, I will furlough you. So at some point in time, so I can still keep your contributions up to date. Now, under this program, if you rehire the furloughed employee, you brought them back, they now become a part of the list. It simply means that you can continue to make contributions, or if you were making contributions, then in fact you would benefit. But what we want from you is a list of employees for which you are really making those contributions, Social Security contributions.
So even if I'd stopped, I can bring them back on, have them as my employee, apply for the wage subsidy, and then for at least 3 months, they would be able to get the wage subsidy through the program.
They would benefit from the program.
Okay.
All right.
Yes.
And you are
Because remember, sorry, Gavin, I just wanted to say this. The denominator of this program, really, a big part of it is the retention of employees.
Yes.
Because what we don't, really, the more that are employed and the fact that you can, you have the human resources, the human capital, rather than at some point having to get others. So indeed, yes, the retention of the employee is very, very important.
Yes, and I was also going to ask that you are prioritizing certain businesses in certain sectors as well, correct? Such as tourism, agriculture, and etc.
Right, right. What happened is one of the things we needed to find out is where are the sectors that were most affected. As we all know, so tourism, which contributes over 40% to gross domestic product or the wealth of a country, were really greatly affected. And the value-added services that are provided by the core and tourism service, there are so many of those. I mean, you have, tour operators. You could think about hair braiders and so many that were affected.
Yeah.
So that was primary, because our survey showed that it was. You have agriculture, you have fisheries, you have the creative industries, you have transportation and logistics. So, and I just, if you notice, I listed some of those, and I also listed creative industries to indicate that those who are affected and the creative industries, and right, you put transportation and logistics, tourism and leisure, they are all included. Agro-processing was the next big thing. And so fisheries, light manufacturing, creative and cultural industries, they all qualify. All that will happen is, and there are two application forms, I must say this, that there's an application for micro because it's important to simplify the process. What we don't want is a complicated process. A person might only have internet for a period of time and use their phones, and so therefore they can apply. So there's a form, if we refer to it as Form A, they can apply through that and just put in the information. But remember, a micro enterprise can also apply for the wage subsidy. The loan program is only for small and medium. So that is where we are in terms of the eligibility, in terms of the area. And remember that you must have been operating for more than a year, and you must have been affected by COVID-19. So we're not catering to new entities. Yeah. So an entity that says, okay, I'm conceptualizing, or I started yesterday. No, they would not have been affected because they have just conceptualized or decided they wanted to operate. So they would not qualify. Yeah. But it does not mean that BELTRAIDE, through its Small Business Development Center, would not be able or would not provide support services in terms of training and advising and things like that. Because training and advising through BELTRAIDE is also a big part of this program as well. That's an additional benefit to these enterprises, and of course providing the guidance. We'll also be monitoring and evaluating and to provide reports, but also to provide guidance for them.
So to be clear, once again, if it's more than one person that you're looking to subsidize the wage, you apply through the MSME program for the wage subsidy.
That's a part of the MSME.
If it's a sole self-employed person, I'm going to access the unemployment relief program.
Relief, because there's a facility for that.
Okay. And so, make the distinction for me between, because you clearly say the informal system. What do you call the informal system? Because some people that catch and kill, but they have their own terminology that they use for themselves.
Right. Well, catch and kill is a good one, Marlene. Yeah. As a matter of fact, the informals would simply mean that you don't have a business name, you might not have been registered, but then sometimes you find out that you did not go through the whole formalization process. You might even have been paying Social Security. Now, that Social Security is a measure of formalization because I can identify who you are. But if you walk, for example, even on Coney Drive, if you take a look on Coney Drive, you would see a number of people who might have, for example, selling tacos, or you see selling coconut water or something like that. They have not gone through the process of registration. It's hard for you to, for example, if someone come and moves them from there, that is not their identified location. So the only thing we are asking from them, because they can apply, what we are requesting is that we need to know, because there's an evaluation process. We need to know, what's your address? How can we reach you? So a notary public, for example, just send us a letter. This would be your upload. It would be your uploaded document. I am so-and-so, and Gavin would know this. I am so-and-so, well, Marlene as well. I am so-and-so. I am located at, this location. You can find me. This is a number you can call, and give us a number where we can reach you. And that provides the information. Now, at some point, if you decide that I might want to register my business, which is really $25 just for a business registration name, you can do that at some point in time. But what we're saying here is, and reiterating this is a stimulus to create greater economic activity. Every new dollar that is created, it's multiplied through the economy and creates greater revenue and greater income, and it contributes to national income. So the more disposable income that is out there, so it's a stimulus that is being provided, and you want to make it as seamless, less bureaucratic, less stringent, and less restrictive. And so that's what we're doing here.
Yeah. Now, the grants that people can access, that's separate from the wage subsidy.
The grant is separate.
Yeah.
There's an allocation of $2.5 million. And so if you apply solely for the grant, right, the $2.5 million, each grantee, each application that is approved, each entity will receive $2,500.
Yeah.
And let me just state that this is a one-off payment. In other words, there is no top-up. After that, you receive the $2,500, and this should help you in terms of your recovery, in terms of working capital, and remember that we will provide the support that is necessary.
Yeah. Now,
But it's a one-off.
what's the type of criteria that you need to meet to be able to be eligible for this?
Well, it's the same thing. Remember, one of the things, you must be operating for more than a year, whether, and again, formal or informal.
Sorry, my question is more along the lines of do you have to be able to say what you're going to use the grant for?
Well, what we requested as a means of providing guidance for you. Okay, so you were affected by COVID. How were you affected? In this case, what will you use the grant for? Because it does tell you that you can use the grant for employee return. You can use the grant for working capital, meaning that maybe you needed, supplies and things like that. You can use it for that.
Yeah. So if somebody needs to rent their space or move to a cheaper space, that could cover moving expenses, things like that as well.
We would hope that it would not be used for that, because if you use the money primarily, if rent expense become what it be used for, then where do you get your, the inputs for your production process or inputs to what you were doing?
Okay. So you are looking at what they plan to use it for and offering guidance.
Right, right. For example, you see they're purchasing of raw materials, some diversification, because we have seen this.
Yeah.
We have seen micros now that are producing masks. People are producing masks with logos. Masks will become a part of our wardrobe now. So what has happened? People actually wear a mask for each piece of clothing that they wear this time. And hand sanitizers, we have seen the face shields. All those things can now be produced locally. And the other thing that we want to do, and that is why it's almost important, and it's important for me to add this, is a Buy Belize campaign. These things that are produced, we want them, you can purchase them locally, because it's now being produced. Like I said, the face shields, the face mask, I've seen travelers are now using diversifying, because, hand sanitizers has become one of those things that are being demanded.
Yeah.
So we have seen a lot of that. So take the funds, and the Buy Belize campaign, that will be a contribution to, along with, from BELTRAIDE, we assist with digital marketing. Yeah. But a Buy Belize campaign, there's also a national Buy Belize campaign, being promoted by the government of Belize, of which BELTRAIDE is only a component of that. But together, that's one of the things we want to do. You have seen a number of entities transition that way. You keep hearing about I know Kia keeps talking about Belize On. You have mobile market. You have
Yeah,
quite
there
a
are lots of
number
new
of-
products that are
Right,
popping up. People
quite a
are
number
getting
of others.
innovative. Yeah.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Creativity, innovation is what is going to rule the day and change and allow us, really to contribute and survive,
Yeah.
the challenges that are being faced economically.
So just before we completely run out of time, I want to just give you the chance to address any issues that you may be having with the loan facility. When we talk about micros, you're talking 2 to 4 employees. They can access the grant. They can all access the wage subsidy. Self-employed, one person alone can apply through the unemployment. The loan facilities for the small and medium enterprises. Any challenges there or anything that you need to clear up this morning?
I think one of the challenges general. The channel is basically that there were entities that were applying and some could not upload the requisite documents.
Wow.
In some cases, but as you know, even Microsoft, when they put out, because they keep evolving and put up operating system software, they meet challenges.
Yeah.
So those challenges we have met, and because, like I said, you have the BELTRAIDE team, we're working very closely with labor and others. And so anytime we find an issue, so by now, we still have 11 more days. Well, today is the 11th, so we have 10 more days of the application period. But those glitches, which we expect would happen, those are now being ironed out, and it's more of a seamless process. But still remember that the BELTRAIDE team, which I must give a lot of credit to, they are there, and those dedicated lines, etc., that are there, please use them, and the email. Because once you email us or email, those will be taken into consideration and the assistance will be provided as quickly as possible.
All right, and Dr. Barnett, for you, before you go, looking at the situation, some of the concerns from people. Oh, we lost her. We lost her from the call. Okay, so I was going to ask, maybe you.
I'm here, Marlene.
Oh,
I'm here.
see, I was misinformed. My
I'm
bad.
still trying to fix the camera, but it's not working.
All right, but we got some messages from people saying that they're trying to input their data and that they're told, they get a response back saying that their social security number is already in the system. What do you tell people like that? What is the problem there?
It isn't a problem, actually. It's just that I keep telling people they're a little bit too enthusiastic. So when they press enter, they do that double, triple dot thing, and the computer will only pass with the first one. If you press it again, you get that message. When you're applying, you put in at the very early stage, the first window that comes up, your name, your social security number, your date of birth. If it goes through and you get to put in the rest of the information, that means before you sat down at the computer, that number and name would not have been used by anybody else before. So you are doing it the first time. When you finish making your application, press enter one time. If you press 1, 2, or 3 times, you will get that message back, because it is as if you're trying to input the same application more than
multiple
once.
times.
Yes. And every single time we've had people say, but when I finish doing the application and I press enter, I get that response, and that is why. If there's an issue with your number being in the system already, you will not even be allowed to fill out the application form.
It's not because they applied in the first round. It would be that there's already an application for the second.
No, it has nothing to do with having been in the system before in that way.
Okay.
This is an entirely new database that's being built.
Dr. Barnett, has there been any hotline or maybe some kind of location that's set up to help people with the application? I mean, online forms are tedious no matter what you're doing. And when you mentioned the situation of the 25,000 from the first round who had incomplete information, sometimes people need assistance with these things. What's been offered in terms of support?
What we've done, there are a number of telephone numbers. I was trying to reach the website to pull it up just now. But there are some telephone numbers that people can call. But I suggest to people, since the numbers are only going to be operated during normal working hours, use the email address if you can, because you can put in an email address anytime.
Okay.
You can put in an email message anytime. unemployment@covid19.bz. And that will register your concern. Somebody will answer you, and you will get a response that way. The numbers for the unemployment relief program to send a text, you can send a text to 613-0095. Again, you can send a text any hour of the day or night to that number, and somebody will pick it up and respond to you.
Okay.
We're using the text and we're using the email because that will allow us more time for operators to really be dealing with
To
actual
respond.
application forms. Many of the questions that, yes, we've simplified the process. People want to know, when will I be approved? Well, we're not starting the approval process until the end of this week. So a lot of people are already asking that, and it ties up the phone lines and it ties up our staff time. And so if you have an error message that you can't understand, that makes no sense to you, send us an email, we'll troubleshoot and get back to you, or send a text, we'll troubleshoot and get back to you.
And so the estimated time of that first disbursement is when?
We're working towards beginning this disbursements the end of this week, which is Friday, and that means it should be paid out early next week, which would be Monday or Tuesday. That's the target, and if things go as we think they will, we ought to be able to do that.
And
but remember, it's 50,000 people who have applied so far, and we have quite a significant bit of sifting out that we have to do.
And in terms of, is there a closing date, or is it when you reach a particular cap?
There isn't a closing date yet. I keep telling people there are only so many people who can apply, because you know the population of Belize, you know the labor force, you know the unemployment rate, and so we're nearing that already in terms of people who would be eligible to apply. So I don't know that we will have to have a close off. We will just have to work to those who are really and truly eligible are those who will benefit.
All right. Well, we want to thank both of you for coming, for joining us this morning to be able to offer some clarity. As we know, people are desperate, and oftentimes it's the little details that may be holding them back from this process or posing a challenge for them. So we appreciate you coming in and being able to provide this information. Once again, it's all available on your website.
Thank you all very much as well.
All right. Have a great day and stay safe.
You too.
You too.
All right.
Thanks.
We're going to go ahead and take a break. When we come back from talking about unemployment relief and business stimulus to responding to violence against women and girls. We'll tell you all about the latest initiative after the break. Please stay tuned.
This COVID update was brought to you by Fulltech Systems, your technology center, where you'll come for the price, but stay for the service.